I think we're going to try to come up with a fun name, a good name that fits in that,
Duffy's a real Newfoundland nickname.
All right, we are going
Humans
to
up there.
get started.
There's a lot of Duffys up there.
Yeah?
All right, calling the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Welcome to the January 11th, 2024 Conservation Commission meeting. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Sue couldn't be here. She's taking notes at home, so we're supposed to make sure we talk into our mic. And I will just record who is here. So Brian Ward is here, David Bell is here, Chris Blackstone is here, Ellen Snyder is here, Julie Tyson is here, Colin Lawson is here, and Tom Jones is here. I know that Jessica Kahn couldn't make it, and Jeff Goldknoff couldn't make it. I haven't heard from Sam. I think he will be here. Okay, so, oh, and Melissa couldn't be here. So with that, I will, so Jeff is a voting member and Melissa is a voting member, so I will put both you and Tom Colin as voting members tonight.
Great.
Make myself a note. Okay, any public comment? I don't think we have any public, those are guests for later. Okay, we don't have our meeting minutes because Sue is not here. I do want to talk about the non-public meeting minutes, so I'm going to make a couple handouts. Let's send 3 this way. There's that one, and there's another one. It's a different one, if you can hand that out. 3 this way. 2.
Thanks, Tom.
Oh, I just slid into
We
home
were a
on that
little
one.
slower than Tom.
Farthest away.
Well, now I'm on the
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So you may remember last fall, forget which meeting it was, but you appointed myself and Jeff to review the non-public meeting minutes that we have going back in time to whatever minutes we know we had. And so Jeff and I did that. And so I have 2 handouts for you. One is says non-public session process and minutes, Newmarket Conservation Commission. So there was a new state law, or an update of a state law that was went into effect last October. And the town council, or Steve, and the town council adopted a process for how you go into a non-public session and how you come out of a non-public and decide if you're going to keep the minutes sealed, as they say. And so I essentially just copied that for the Conservation Commission, so we should probably adopt this officially. And essentially the 2 key things to know on the first page, you have to decide why you're going into non-public, and it has to be for one of these 7 RSAs. And typically for us, it's number D, considering basically the acquisition or discussion of real estate. So that's typically why we go in, and so in the minutes...
I'm sorry, what did you say,
Okay,
Ellen?
first
Which one?
page, the 4th one down, so
Yep.
it would be number D.
Oh, D.
D as in dog.
Okay.
We're talking about dogs. So we have to say why we're going into non-public, and we state that RSA.
Yep.
So we go into non-public, and we record the time we go in, and then on the back side, we have a discussion, we record who's present and so forth, and blah, blah, blah. And then when you leave non-public, or before you leave non-public, you make a motion to, no, first you leave non-public, and then you make a motion whether you're going to seal the minutes. And this is what's also important. There's sort of 2/3 of the way down, there are 3 possible reasons for sealing the minutes, and you have to pick one. And typically, you pick adversely affect the reputation of the person. So you're talking about real estate, you don't want to necessarily talk about, their situation. So That's the reason we would seal the minutes. And then we do that in public. And then periodically, I think you have to do it at least every 10 years. You have to then review periodically whether those minutes should stay sealed. So, I think first, if we could adopt this process, if that makes sense. It's identical to what I think the town council is using at this point. And then in terms of the minutes themselves, they are kept in the town administrator's office. Essentially, Wendy Chase maintains them for us.
Do we think a lot of that is driven by financial discussions? Is that, I mean,
In terms of going into non-public?
Yeah,
Yeah, you typically don't discuss, you're negotiating with a landowner whether they want to conserve their land.
right.
And so if they aren't ready to make that decision, you stay in non-public, and then at some point, it becomes public, and then you discuss it in public.
Well, once you get a purchase and sale agreement signed,
Yeah,
it's then public,
then public,
because they've made a decision.
right.
The purpose is that if telling people what you're negotiating would affect the contract, like if you need to have it like, this is the negotiation phase, but it would be like, we mess up the negotiation if we did it public, that's the only reason why you do it, but yes, once it's said and done, it's said and done.
Yeah. The other situation that we have felt, at least Jeff and I, in reviewing the minutes, and we'll discuss those in a second, is that sometimes we've gone into non-public to discuss abutter issues with properties, and we feel that also, that's real estate, we're talking about land, and it's reputation, because you don't necessarily want to talk about abutter issues in public, because sometimes it's just a matter of a friendly conversation or something to resolve it, and there's no sense, there's not really a good idea to talk about that in public. So if you're feeling comfortable with this, we can have a motion to adopt this process for our non-public minutes.
I would make that motion to adopt this proposal as the procedure we'll follow for Conservation Commission.
Great, okay, second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Colin. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that was 6, you're not a voting member, so 6-4, and no against, 0 against. All right, we'll just make a note so Sue knows what we're up to at home. Okay, then if we take a look at the second page, this is basically the recommendation from Jeff and I, so I'll read it. It says, whereas Governor Sununu signed into law House Bill 321, which require public bodies and agencies to review sealed minutes no later than 10 years after they were last sealed. This law took effect October 3rd, 2023. And whereas the Conservation Commission delegated review of the non-public minutes to Ellen Snyder, Conservation Commission Chair, and Commission Member Jeff Goldnoff to make a recommendation on which minutes shall remain sealed. And whereas this review has been completed, the following motion is put forward to the Conservation Commission for approval. So the motion is the Newmarket Conservation Commission hereby reseals the following minutes for the stated reasons. So again, this is the second part on the back of why we're keeping the minutes sealed. And pretty much these set of 8 minutes, as stated in the motion, the dates are provided, remain sealed because of reputation. And then, so that's the first motion, and the second motion is essentially the same, but unsealing this suite of minutes because either the project was completed, as Tom had stated, or there were a couple where there really was no reason to go into non-public for those discussions, and so we feel those should be released as well. So if we could take the first motion.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
It's more a curiosity question. This looks like it's from 2004 to just about the present, or very recent past. How did you know which ones to touch and where were these
Okay,
lurking?
so-
What was that like?
So this is very good. So these are the ones that we were able to find, which goes back to a little bit of record keeping.
Yeah.
And so hence the importance of not only the process of why we're going in and out, but to make sure we all know that where are these minutes kept. We don't know where the rest of them are. But so, I mean, for the most part, if somebody finds them someday and they'll be released, and they're probably about real estate. And,
The same process anyway.
yeah. So these are all that we could find. And so we're working, we'll talk a little bit more about record keeping later in the meeting, but it brings very good observation that.
And are these all digital? Is that-
Some
or
of them
a
are hard copy,
combination?
some are hard copy, some are
Yeah.
digital, yeah. Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing that amount of
So-
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you
And then
very
the
much.
Yeah.
motions, that
That's a
was
lot.
really-
It's good to go through them and have a process so we're all on the same page and everybody's following the same process. So, I mean, in some ways, it also makes you realize that if we don't have to go into non-public, we shouldn't, because you really have to have very good reasons to go into non-public. So this helps, I think, in that process as well.
Yeah.
Okay, if someone is willing to, the first motion, to reseal the following minutes as stated in the memo dated January 3rd.
I would make a motion that we reseal, or keep sealed, or is it, it's keep sealed?
Keep sealed.
The minutes mentioned here on the first motion, page
Okay.
1 of this, front side of this document.
Thank you.
I
Second?
second.
Second, Tom, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? All right, 6-0. Thank you. Motion number 1. All right, and motion number 2 is we're unsealing that list of minutes.
18, yeah.
If I could have a motion for that?
I would make a motion to unseal the 18 minutes released on the back, listed on the back side of this
Thank you.
document.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, go on. All right. Any
David,
further
you can
discussion?
take it if you.
All right, we can put David down for the, I realized I can put that down, and that Tom and Chris. All right, we'll put David for second, and Chris. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So maybe I already did that. Losing track of mine. All right, great, thank you.
Nice work, thank you.
Yeah, it's good to get that all taken care of. And it's helpful to you have this now digitally because you got it in the packet if you didn't, but also to keep this because, you know, we're going to have to do that every time we want to go into non-public. But it's a good thing to keep in your regular packet if you have such a thing for
Good.
commission. Great. Okay, moving along. Financial summary. Okay, so this will be for Sue's benefit for the meeting minutes. So our total fund balance for the Conservation Commission Fund is $134,710.21. The Richard Shanda Fund is $4,621.11 for a total of $139,331.32. And there really wasn't much happening in the last month except for some interest. And then in the general fund, the total balance is $3,136.59. And under that, we have, which we haven't expended yet, the contract with CELT, and we did get an invoice, which I think we'll discuss under conservation easement monitoring. So, any questions on the budgets? Okay. Moving along to the master plan update. Woo! All right. So we have 3 guests. We have Bart McDonough, the town planner. We have Autumn Scott from SRPC, Stratford Regional Planning Commission, and Jackson Rand, also from Stratford Regional Planning Commission. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And remember to speak loudly for Chris at home. And,
Sue,
I'm sorry, Sue, I keep calling, yeah, sorry. Sue is at home,
that's all right.
and we got Autumn here, and Chris over there. Oh, you're on first.
Great.
Go for it.
So really excited to be with you guys tonight. We have an activity designed to set some goals for the chapter. So I'm going to start off by just kind of giving you an update of where everything is in the world of the master plan, because there's quite a lot going on. So on Tuesday, the planning board, my colleague Angie Cleveland, who is working with the subcommittee, presented to the planning board on chapter composition and where we're at with the master plan. And so the planning board made a vote on all of the chapters that we will be including in the master plan. So things have changed a little bit since we first started the project. The chapters are, I'll have them sent out to you. It's not a final list, but open space is now incorporated in a natural resources chapter, as well as the water resources chapter is going to be incorporated into the natural resources as well. So it's going to be a little bit longer. But the way that we're going to do this is we're going to continue with the full open space plan so that nothing is left out. And that will be attached as an appendix. And so what will appear as the master plan chapter will be really like a summarized version that's readable and easy for members of the public to understand. And similar, your current water resources chapter, we're going to update all the data so that it's consistent with the rest of the plan, and attach that as an appendix to the master plan. So again, none of that is left out. And so I'll have that full list of chapters sent out to you all so you kind of know what's going on. And next week, staff at SRPC with Bart and others in Newmarket, we're going to strategize about the other master plan teams. So this team is taking on the natural resources chapter, as well as some ownership of the riverfront goals. And there's several other chapters, so there'll be a couple other teams outside of the subcommittee and the Conservation Commission working on different chapters. So we'll keep you updated as all of that gets sorted. And one other item to touch on, which Bart will kind of talk about, is the recreation chapter.
Right, so, subcommittee meeting, one chapter that was left out was recreation, and the subcommittee idea was that recreation kind of touched on many different chapters within the master plan. So I just want to take a pause here and have a discussion on if that's what we should do, the commission. Should there be a recreation chapter onto its own, or should it, again, the way it's being presented right now, go in different chapters, for instance, like community facilities, open space, where there's recreation opportunities, or should it have a chapter for itself? So I think SRPC, myself, and we had a discussion on that, and we were of the opinion that it probably should have its own chapter, just because it's such a cornerstone of the community, especially what the recreation department does. We think that it deserves its own chapter. So I just want to have that discussion right now, and what the commission thinks. Tom?
Well, it seems if all the other sections or if there are other sections that have a recreational component, that should be stated in that section. But I would think there's lots of recreation that's much bigger than that. So yes, I would think the recreation section would be everything else, which would be a lot.
Thank you. Colin?
Yeah, I would agree with Tom, for sure. I think it makes sense to me to have the recreation be independent. And again, do you anticipate there to be redundancy in the document that would end up kind of, consolidating it for the recreation section, but then also the same information spill out into the others as well?
So I think there's definitely, cross-cuts between, like Bart said, with community facilities, you have your recreation facilities, and that's something that maybe wants to be touched on in a chapter like that. But there's other things like budgeting for the rec department, or, how they plan out their staffing and things like that, which wouldn't really belong anywhere else besides its own dedicated chapter. So.
Yeah, and that's a nice opportunity to talk about programming as well.
Yeah.
And other events. So again, there might not be places within other chapters where it would be appropriate, and we don't want to leave out.
Yeah.
So we don't want to leave out the opportunity to have it be in the master plan.
So the trail we're working on for the Boulder group, as an example, does that just fall under recreation, or does that fall into some other aspect?
Again, it can cross-cut,
Yeah.
but it could probably be in recreation, but also it could touch in the open space as well.
Yeah.
So it could be referencing each other, but again, we're not at that stage of drafting, but
Right.
I can see it being in that chapter.
Yeah. No, I like the idea.
Chris,
Oh,
yeah?
Chris.
Did you want
I
to,
was good.
are we
Oh.
doing it in the circle?
I was going to do a circle.
Oh,
so-
yeah, we can do a
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah, I would agree, especially thinking just as a person living in Newmarket, once the document is completed, I feel like there are things that would be easier to find within a recreation section versus searching through the open space or other sections. Just, before moving here, I can remember trying to look up certain things and it being pretty busy and hard to find. So I think that, a recreation section would have benefit, and even if it's reiterating other things, a nice condensed section, and then, as you said, everything that the recreation department does too also has a big benefit to the town.
Thank you. Ellen?
Yeah, I was actually surprised there wasn't one when we discussed it last night. It's such a huge department in the community and so much programming. I think it would be a disservice not to have its own chapter, so, yeah.
Thank you. Chris?
I think it clearly needs its own chapter, but I also think that what's really commendable and what I think is something that you're hinting at, it's almost like it's palpable, but you can't really touch it, is the fact that this recreation department, I think, is already pretty ahead of the curve philosophically, and I also know the staff there is taking active paces toward the idea that passive things that are free and available in the community that don't require you sign up and register and, go on a hike led by somebody, but they're really trying to encourage and seeing ways to work with people to realize that passive recreation, things that are free, are every bit as valid. And I think they're doing a lot to organize and promote those kind of things in the town as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Here, here.
I really got nothing else to add from what's already been said, so.
Great. Thank
I
you.
just was going to say that considering that it touches so many things, but also has so many things independent, it makes sense to have its own chapter. Kind of like how Public Works is kind of involved with a lot of our, Public Works is kind of part of all of our chapters, but it's also its own thing, so it makes sense to have a Public Works chapter, even though it kind of touches upon some other stuff, so same with recreation.
Great. All right. Thank you, Brian. So I guess it sounds like there's consensus here. So maybe just say some kind, I won't say you can make a formal motion, but maybe Ellen, you can bring that back to the subcommittee meeting and you can report back. So you and I can follow up and kind of report back to the subcommittee meeting about the support for such a chapter.
I know there are these 4 teams, and the chapters have been put into each of the 4 teams. Do you think recreation would be in our team, or would it have a different, have you thought about that in terms of
That's a
the team?
good point. Thoughts now?
Yeah, so I did talk to the person who does our rec planner, I guess, our default rec planner at SRPC, and he felt that the Conservation Commission would be his kind of go-to point for who he would want to talk to. And obviously, like, arts, culture, and tourism as a board probably has some things to say, and other experts that we can bring in, but I think the Conservation Commission is who we would like to approach to take on that chapter.
Yeah, of course, Amy would be obviously a key player.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, if people who haven't known about the process, part of this whole teams aspect, we bring in experts, so experts are going to ebb and flow through as different chapters are being worked on. So we'd bring Amy in with the recreation, should be a very significant part of the development of that chapter. And then again, I can see arts and tourism as well, programming. But I think, as Autumn said, maybe the Conservation Commission is the forum that can be held, to have these discussions. And since we're working on the open space, the natural resources chapter already, that's going to end, by June. So then there'll be an opportunity once we work on recreation, we start that process up. So, does the commission agree that this be appropriate venue?
I think it's a good fit. We do partner with them on,
Yeah.
on things, so.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, they've got obviously some very different other things, but we're happy to, I think it's fine to have a forum here. Works to me.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
So,
I was just going to say, the only group I could think would be arts, culture, and tourism, but I think Amy probably would be the best person to decide the group that fit best.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it could be joint
Yeah.
too, different aspects can be divided.
Yeah.
So, based on topics.
Yeah.
I think, we can be creative with this.
Yeah, we haven't had Amy come to speak with us as a commission, so that would be a good opportunity to
Yeah.
have more integration, I think.
Great. All right, so I guess Ellen and I will just bring that back as a recommendation to the subcommittee. We'll move forward from there. Thanks, Ellen.
Yeah, thank you, Bart. Great, well, that all sounds awesome. And so, yeah, I'll just keep going on with the updates of what's going on. So logo is still in development. We've set up a survey to send out to staff and boards in town to ask the first 5 words that come to mind when you think of Newmarket. And so Bart's going to be sending that out soon to folks. And then once I have that gathered, we'll see, what are the words that come up the most and how does that relate to symbology and images. And then by the time the first public workshop that we're going to hold comes up, which will be March 16th, it's a Saturday, then we'll have the logo and sort of style guide and marketing materials for the plan ready for that first big public-facing activity.
Could you just,
Yes.
the first 5 words request is going out to who?
Town staff and boards?
Yep, it'll be staff and boards,
Okay,
staff and board members.
because we got that request. Did anybody submit, did we?
No,
already?
those kind of like assigned to you verbally.
Okay.
And then we're going to send it. I'm
Okay,
gonna
so
send
you'll
it out
formally
to
send it out.
everyone. So
Okay.
yeah, you haven't received it yet.
Okay,
It'll be coming next
okay.
week.
All right.
Yeah, so that'll be just an online form to fill out. So yeah, excited to see the results of that. And then, as I mentioned, in March, on the 16th, we'll hold a workshop, and that'll be a joint workshop. So we'll touch on natural resources, as well as housing, and also a little bit of visioning, because, typically we start with visioning chapter. I know that the planning board had some interest in that, so we're going to incorporate that into that workshop. We're still designing those activities and seeing how that's all going to play out, so we'll present to you what that looks like prior to the workshop.
Just to be clear, that's for public to come and
Yes,
provide
yeah.
input, not
That'll
just
be-
for us, but the whole
Yeah.
community.
The whole community will be invited to that, and so, once the activity design is sort of pulled together by myself and Angie and other staff, we'll have you all take a look and see if you think, you're in agreement with, yes, this is going to get the feedback that we're looking for from the community to support the chapter. And so in prep for that, Jackson has so graciously been working on a great website for the master plan. So we're working on populating that with some content. Obviously, we haven't drafted any chapters, so just putting some things up on the website to make it look attractive. We're going to have a calendar feature so that everyone can see, when are the public meetings, Conservation Commission and other boards, where we'll be holding sessions like this, and then also those bigger events and activities, so that every time people go to the page, they know what's the nearest engagement opportunity. And then leading up to the March workshop, we're going to work on putting out a photo contest that is both promotional for the workshop, but we can also use those for the plan itself and to make the website really interesting. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Next update. Today, Bart and I met with, and Jackson met with Lynn Vaccaro and Rachel Stevens from the Great Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve, because there's some interest in getting some Connect to Protect technical assistance. And what that is support in implementing the Coastal Watershed Conservation Plan. So we talked about some potential options, and it looks like Lynn and Emma Tutian from UNH will, at hopefully the February meeting, come and show some examples of checklists and scoring for conservation land prioritization, which is, I think, similar to what they did in Rochester that we had talked about before. Does that sound
Sounds
right?
yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. And some other support that they can provide along the way after that, which I'll be writing up a sort of scope of work for them that I'll share with you all once that's done next week. And then the last update that I have for you is today I met with Lindsay Butler, your engineer, and we talked about the different things that she is looking for from a engineering or environmental science consultant to work on the downtown riverfront chapter. So what we're thinking that we're looking for is a group of diverse environmental scientists, as a consultant that can provide engineering, monitoring different things, so that, once we dig into the plan more and know the material that we have and what we're really looking for, we can have that flexibility. But the idea is that they'll help to create a phasing timeline and scope for the infrastructure updates that are going to go on downtown, as well as the living shoreline and sort of resilience best management practices to be implemented along the Lamprey and Moonlight Brook and such. And so that will help to make sure that those sort of soft infrastructure, like the living shoreline, isn't going to get trampled and destroyed while it's growing, as necessary infrastructure updates come on down the line.
So is that a consultant they're actually engineers, or they facilitate creating? I guess I'm not clear what the skill set is you're looking for.
Yeah, so I think the skill set that we're looking for is likely an engineer, but we would look for a firm like, for example, FB Environmental that has, all kind of the full gamut of environmental related skills. So, yeah, because there's going to be a lot of moving parts there, and so, yeah, that's what we're thinking right now. And like I said, I'll share that scope with you all, and if you have any comments to provide, because you are taking some ownership of that riverfront chapter, then that'll be helpful to us. So those are all the updates. Took a little longer, but there's a lot going on here.
Do you want to mention the survey, or are you going to mention that?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Right.
If you have not taken the survey yet, please take it. We have some
Does anybody need a
cards
card
here.
if you haven't taken the survey yet?
QR code if you need it.
Pass them out.
We're going to continue to work on promoting that, because
Had it in my folder.
as we approach the holidays, there's been some stagnancy as expected in responses. I think we're at about the halfway mark, ideally, for where we should be. We're at about 200 responses, which is still great, and will provide, is a good, sample to provide solid information, but, the more the better. So we'll continue working on promoting that. I think we decided for the next couple weeks. Yeah. 22nd, through the 22nd of January. So tell your friends, get your surveys in before the 22nd. All right. So now we're going to go into the mapping discussion. And Jackson is going to help guide this discussion because he is the master of the maps. So what you all have in front of you is a full set of the maps developed. And this is, I'll remind you, this is developed based on the open space maps that were existing. So recognize that this is not going to be your complete map set for the natural resources chapter overall. We'll update the water resources chapter maps and then, strategize on what else we might need to fill in gaps.
Okay, so just to start, I believe Ellen and Bart are the only people I've met in person before. So I'm Jackson Rand. I'm the senior GIS planner at SRPC. So any mapping products that you see that come out of SRPC, they all come from me. If there are any mapping needs that you guys have in the future, please feel free to reach out to us. We have a variety of funding sources to help cover them and can often provide free mapping services to Conccoms and other town planning boards. So feel free to keep us in your thoughts in the future. But I'm going to do a quick overview of what we've created before, and just reiterating what Autumn just said. These maps were created when it was only an open space plan. So the water resources maps are coming. and the natural resources maps are coming. Right now, we're just focusing on the open space stuff for now. I will also point out that in all of these maps, you see conservation lands on them. Ellen has let me know that there are some conservation lands missing, and she's provided me with map and lot numbers for those parcels. That has not been updated on these maps yet. So you will see on the maps in front of you that there are some conservation lands that are not marked as conservation lands. We will get that updated in the next week or two. The first map you're looking at is a locust map. I like to start projects with a locust map. Very basic: roads, rivers, lakes, roads labeled, just to give you a sense of like, this is your community. So locust maps, generally very straightforward. My plan was to go through these one by one and see if anyone has comments. Does that work for you guys?
Sure.
Yeah, so if anyone has any comments on this first map, feel free to just shout them out. If not, I'll move on to the next one.
I have no comments, so other people can, anybody else? So it's called a locus map, but should we call it a base map? Does it matter to you? It seems like locus map is where are you in the world, whereas
Doesn't
this
really
is.
matter. We can change it if you'd like. We can also make another locus map that's like way zoomed out to show where Newmarket is located in the state, if that's something you would prefer.
I think, well, I know because Bart and I think chatted about this, but I think everything on this current map is on other maps, and so rather than having this kind of thing as a first map, since we're going to see all this information in other maps, maybe a little bit, where are we in the county or in the seacoast?
Yep. And so just to let you know, for the transportation section, there is a plan to create a map that would be similar to that.
Okay.
That would fit better in a transportation section
So
than
that's
this.
fine.
But if that's something you want in your open space, we can absolutely put it in here.
Personally, I don't think we have to duplicate maps. I think if there's somewhere else in the plan, it's
Cool.
okay with me, but
Yeah, but that regional map we're planning on for the transportation chapter would be zoomed out much further. You'd see a lot more of New Hampshire, Maine, and Mass. There would be some sort of like star or something indicating major cities, and we would have major transportation travel corridors on that map as well, to just give a regional context of where Newmarket is. How do you get to Portland? How do you get to Concord? How do you get to Boston? What transportation services are available to
Okay.
get to those places?
I guess what I can see with your point, Ellen, it would just be showing more of like where our water is going, you
yeah, the
know?
coastal watershed
Yeah,
kind of a
coastal-
thing.
yeah,
So within the
exactly.
coastal
Yeah,
watershed.
I would say the
Yeah.
coastal New Hampshire
Yeah.
locus map,
Yeah.
Okay.
as opposed to a New England locus.
So just slightly more zoomed out so you can see maybe out to the coast, but we don't need Maine and Vermont
Yeah.
and Mass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can totally do that.
Well, and they're all kind of connected with Great Bay.
Yep, that's where I was kind of
Yeah,
coming from,
so showing how we all fit with Great Bay would.
Okay.
I was just about to pop in and say, would you like the Great Bay drainage area?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But then, parts of the oyster too, so, when you zoom out to get, our neighbors, if you will, I think is kind of key, or at least that's what I
Yeah,
hear
yeah.
other people sharing, yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything anyone else wants to say about this first one?
No, I had some overall comments, but I can save those for later.
Okay. So moving on, we have surface water and infrastructure. What you'll see on here is primarily dams, bridges, wetlands, the town's prime wetlands. Yeah, and that would cover our surface water resources and infrastructure.
I'm sorry, how are wetlands being shown differently than prime wetlands? I'm not seeing it. It looks like the symbols are the same.
They are so this one's blue, this one's turquoise. They are very similar, so we could change that to make it a little bit clearer.
Yeah, I can't find them.
Did the rest of you pick
Yeah,
up
the
on what
same.
we were just talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can change, I prefer to keep the wetlands that color because that's kind of a standard color, but the prime wetlands I can definitely change to something that pops better.
That would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah. I wonder if, I think in the water resources chapter currently, the one that's already existing, the salt marsh are yellow, and I'm wondering if in this map or some other map that you're thinking about, can we show the salt marsh as a different color?
Yes, we can. And I think this map specifically, now that the chapters have been combined, this map is really gonna change.
Yeah.
Now that water resources is part of the open space plan chapter. So this one for sure, I see a lot of change coming too. As we add in more water resources, we'll have, water treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants, sewage treatment plants, you know, all of that kind of infrastructure added in here as well.
What about culverts?
We don't necessarily have accurate culvert data.
Okay.
If someone in town has culvert data and can send it to us, we can absolutely map it. But we don't have access to accurate culvert information as of now.
Okay.
My
It
understanding is
exists.
this, what was that?
It exists.
It does?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's, you know, each culvert has been evaluated,
Yep.
and photographed.
Yep.
Not that you're gonna put photographs in here, but the condition of it is also known.
Mhm.
I don't know how much detail you wanna get into, but
Okay.
it exists
Okay.
at the state level.
Okay, yeah, I know that for the state level, theirs is fairly comprehensive. For municipal culverts, it's different by town, so I'm not sure what you guys might have
I think
access
it's all in
to.
that aquatic, it's all in that aquatic database of DES, I think. I think
Yeah.
they're all
Okay.
in there.
Municipal ones too, not just state-owned? Okay, awesome. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
definitely get that pulled in
And,
here as well.
yeah, it's probably a shape file that they can give you, I would think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is that I was just bringing up because I feel
Oh, I
like we've
think I have
talked about
that.
it a lot.
Yeah, I have that on
yeah.
here too, to add the
Okay.
culverts. You mentioned all the treatment plants and stuff, that is on the groundwater. I think that's on the groundwater one.
Groundwater, drinking water?
Maybe we can, I think if you start adding that to this one,
You're
I
right.
don't know, we could discuss it, but it might be too much. I did have a comment on the symbols on this one.
Are you on the
Which
groundwater
one
map?
are you
No, I'm
on?
still in the surface water.
Okay, cool, cool,
Yeah.
cool.
So even though the symbol inside the circle is different, the colors of the two symbols, the circles are very similar in color.
Mhm.
And I wonder if, I'm sort of for like really different colors, so they just like, I can see, you know, what they are. So even
Yeah.
if one's yellow or something instead of green or blue, whatever.
We can
But,
absolutely do that.
Yeah. And because, yeah,
Also on this map, with the prime wetlands, our prime wetlands data from the town of Newmarket has gotta be 10, 15 years old.
2009.
Has anything updated since
No.
then?
No, it's going to be an implementation task.
Okay, okay. So we have the right
It won't
data
get
then,
done, yeah.
being shown here. Cool.
You, yeah, I guess you do. I mean, I don't know, we have to check the layer. It's hard to see it with the colors, as Tom said, so it's
Mhm.
kind of hard to see what the,
Yeah, we'll get that fixed for the next iteration.
the other thing, it's surface water, so could you label I don't think the rivers are labeled on this one. So like the Lamprey, the Piscassic. I know they're labeled on some other maps, but because this is surface water, I think we could label them here.
You're right, I agree. Yeah,
Um,
that's easy too.
And then I think this happens on some of the other maps, but for me, it depends on whether we want to know where the conserved land is and how much wetland is on conserved land, because right now the wetlands aren't transparent, and so we can't see where the underlying conserved land is.
Mhm.
And I know that's always like a layer issue, but I feel like maybe the wetlands should be a little bit more transparent so we can see through, if that's possible.
Yeah, and along with that, are you interested in statistics about that? Like
Sure,
acres of wetlands on conservation lands or acres of conservation lands within wetlands?
sure. I think
Something
any
like that?
data like that
Yeah,
is
that
great.
would
Okay.
be, that'd be great.
Yeah, those are stats I can pull pretty
That'd be
easily.
great.
Yeah.
Because there's some large wetlands and you don't really know if there's concern, if the landowner is concerned or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that.
Although it's all under a wetland, so chances are.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are all easy fixes. Can totally do these. Anything else about surface water map?
I know, we should put down to check that prime wetlands layer.
Okay. Moving to the next one is the land use map. I do have a little bit of a disclaimer on this map. This land use data comes from 2015, so it's not super accurate. The land use data is generally updated every 5 years when DOT does their aerial flyovers. The aerial flyover was supposed to be in 2020. We all know what happened in 2020. Flyovers never happened until 2022. So we have just received aerial imagery that we were supposed to get in 2020.
Oh,
So we
cool.
are now in the process of updating the land use data layer, and our goal is to have this data updated before this project is over, before this chapter is over. So what you're looking at now is land use in 2015. Hopefully, in 3 or 4 months from now, we'll have a map for you that is land use 2022.
Right. Nice. Nice.
Should I start? So again, sort of the colors, and maybe it's when they're printed, but the wetlands are, you know, that color of the wetlands is not, I wonder if that should be like a blue.
Okay.
Since it's essentially water.
Mm-hmm.
And then the forest green is, well, I guess it's fine, it's a forest land. And so the outdoor and urban built-up land, that's the conserved land? Or is that different?
Different.
So we have conservation lands, but then where is the outdoor, that color is very similar to the conserved lands?
Yeah, it would be very small parcels in your downtown area that at this scale are fairly difficult to see.
Okay.
You can see one.
Oh, I see it right next to the industrial.
Where are they? If I had this printed on like a 36 by 36 inch map, you'd be able to see those parcels downtown. But on an 11 by 17, they're very small.
Is
It's
it
hard to
possible
see
to
'em.
just pick I know there's a lot of land uses there, but can you pick a different color for that?
Mhm.
So it,
Absolutely.
and then agriculture is also green, which is often a yellow on some maps. I know you got yellow for the residential, which I think really stands out nicely. I like that.
We
But-
generally try to follow the land use standards for color symbology for land use and zoning. So this is following those, God, do you know where those colors come from? It's not AICP, I don't think. I think so. So we generally use the APA general colors that they recommend, but we have no problem changing these if you think that some of these would look a little bit better.
Well, we have so much green that I think that, for me, the green kind of blends a little bit together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found myself looking at it saying, okay, if that's the high school, then I go over there and that's this and that's that green, and then I look down here. It's not a second nature thing.
I think my personal opinion, I think the forest land green is perfect for what that is. But changing the greens on ag and outdoor urban built up land, I could do that to make
Okay.
those pop better.
Okay.
Change the wetlands to more of a blue. And then work with some of those grays to make them stand out a little bit better.
That's a great idea.
What does transitional natural land mean?
Transitional land would be, think of I have an example in Concord. I don't know if any of you would know this. In Concord, where I live, there's a Friendly's that burned down.
Yeah.
That parcel is now abandoned and is overgrowing. So that parcel would fall under that category of transitional natural
It'd be like
lands.
old field successional.
Yeah.
That, it really covers anything that's changing from one land use to a different type of land use and is in the process of that change.
All right, there's a lot of little pockets of that going on.
Mhm.
The other one, if you look on between Bay Road and Dame Road, there's a kind of a gray blob. Is that other natural or barren land?
Can you say the road names again?
Uh,
For the
Bay-
general area in town?
Sorry, the northeast part of town between Bay Road and Dame Road. There's a gray polygon.
Okay,
Is that
yep.
up here like the eye of the shark?
The eye of the shark.
I mean, I guess I'm asking those of
It
us,
looks like a
No,
shark.
no, you're right. I never
those of
thought
us
of
who live
it.
in town, I'm not sure what that is, literally, like on the ground, as well as what the category is.
I might have walked up there.
Are we looking at
I
this?
think
Yes.
that's,
Okay.
is that Cheney's
I
land?
think I might have walked up there once.
Yeah.
It's
I
just
think it
open
is.
land.
Yeah, like some clear cut area with some trees.
It's supposed to be a development, but it's not
Yeah.
developed yet.
I think
Other
that's Cheney's
natural or-
property.
I think it is too.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's the same as the transitional natural lands. Those are kind of the same thing, but I don't know if that matters.
And this is
Oh, that's where
also-
the Newmarket Community Garden is.
No, that's a little bit closer to Dame Road, I think.
Yeah.
That gray plot you were talking about?
Yeah.
Was it looking exactly the same in 2015 as it does now?
It's probably, it's probably got a little bit more vegetation on
Okay.
it. Yeah. I think those are funny, those two categories are kind of funky, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it really matters. It's just, they're different, and it's fine. I mean, I think the main message, right, is we see where the subdivisions are, and we see where the forest is, and we see where the wetlands are, which are the major land uses, I guess, and industrial. It's kind of interesting to see all the parcels.
Any other comments on this one? All right, next one, we have zoning overlay districts. This should be pretty straightforward. I think a big thing I'm looking for from you guys is, are there any zoning overlay districts you have in town that are not presented on this map?
Are the buffers different than,
I would just look for the natural ones, or all of them.
All of them.
Okay. There's one, affordable housing, elderly affordable housing, that's an overlay district. I can send you them.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm gonna
Thank
send
you.
them to Jackson.
thank you. Do you have GIS data on them? On the districts? Or just
Yeah,
like narrative data?
It narrative baseline districts.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
um,
So I will get those additional overlay districts added onto this map. Aside from that, any comments?
so just, and I don't know how you do this, but again, the wetlands are gonna be on almost every map, and they change color on every map so far, and I'm just wondering if there's a way to be a little bit more consistent, and so when you look from one map to the other, the wetlands are this, and then they're, there's at least somewhat similar, but they're changing colors quite a bit between the maps.
Do you want to see wetlands on every map? Or
Not
does that make the
necess-
maps too busy?
They don't, I don't think they have to be, no.
Okay,
No, they
Not
don't.
necessarily, no.
I generally agree with that as
Yeah.
well. So I'll keep the wetlands on the maps where the wetlands are important to be on that map.
That's good.
But maps like this, wetlands will come up,
Yeah, it
make it a
just
little bit
clutters.
clearer.
Yep.
And then you do make the map a little less busy, so you don't have to have so many colors.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. The point
Yep.
is to get across some piece of information, right? And if we, simpler the better, I think it's
Yeah.
always good.
Cool. Next one. We have trails and trailheads. I don't think there's much to discuss here. Ellen and I have been working on this map for a year, 2 years.
I do have some edits, but I don't need to tell those tonight. They're sort of they're polygon edits.
Okay.
Could you make the wetlands orange on that one?
If you'd like me to, I can make them a different color on every one. Really confuse
Oh,
people.
yeah.
That'd be a fun master plan to read.
One of the questions I had, and
Yeah.
is a visual thing again, is if, every time there's a parking area, there's a trailhead, just by the nature of it. And so,
Mhm.
do we need, like, I think the only one, well, there's two right now that have both. So you have symbols at both. The Piscassic Lozelle by the 152 symbol, and then Heron Point. And so I wondered if we could just get rid of the trailhead symbols there and just have the P, because
This is still
Mhm.
they kind of overlap each other, and so you can't
Yeah.
see them very well anyway.
Do you understand that? Okay.
And the P at Heron Point should be where the trailhead symbol is, so then you don't have to worry about
Okay.
overlapping.
We also, I think this would be a good time to point out, you can see on this map in some of these properties, especially with the one in the center of town in the north, you'll see that there's a property labeled as having trails, but you don't see any trails mapped there.
Yeah, we do have trails there.
Yes, yeah. But we don't have them mapped, which is why you don't see the trails mapped.
Okay, so you
on
need
the
that
map.
from us?
We don't need it. However, if you guys would like to collect the trail data to get it on these maps, we can totally set you up with all the
No,
technology
we
you
actually
need to do
have,
that.
we have that data.
Okay.
And we have it for Heron Point.
Yeah, or if you have that trail data, feel free to send it to me,
Okay.
and I can get that trail data built in. If there are any trails in your town, aside from the ones you just mentioned, Ellen, that are not mapped on this map, we would love to get those trails mapped. I do know that we don't have budget in the master plan project to do that mapping. But if anybody on town staff or on Concom wanted to do that, go out in the field with a GPS and walk the trail and send us that data, we can put that data into these maps. That's always an option for you.
Do you think it would be helpful to distinguish or add, because I don't know that it's
Yeah,
showing,
no.
is the Class A,
That's what I
specifically
was-
call them out as Class A, because we have 2 Class A trails,
Okay,
and to call them out separately, but
Okay.
we can provide you with that data.
Class A is different than Class 6?
Yes.
Okay,
And then I actually don't think we have any Class 6 roads left in Newmarket.
do you want the Class A roads identified as trails or identified as Class A roads?
They're called Class A trails.
Okay.
That's the official list.
A Class A trail is different than a Class 6 road.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, but we can send you that. And then
Awesome. That'd be
on the-
great.
If you look in the northwest part of town, Jan Lane,
yep,
you have a trail, that's not a trail.
is that a
So
road?
that one should come off. It's a private, that's a private road,
Okay,
driveway. I don't know, does anybody know of any other trail? We do have the data for the Scastic Lizelle and Heron Point, so we can send that in, but I don't think we have any other official trails. That'll be on that. There, actually, we could add that one up there too. There's one up on the Smith Sisters.
all right. Good with this one?
Just check real quick. I have to change the polygon out at the Nature Conservancy on Great Bay. That whole polygon is not open to the public, I realize.
Okay,
I have to change that one, but I'll let you know.
yep.
Oh, can we, I think it would be good to label the Rockingham Recreation Trail, even though it's mostly not in Newmarket, but the trailhead actually is
Yep.
technically, so.
Because that is such a major trail, would you want that symbolized differently? Like a thicker line or a different color, just to
Yes.
really
Oh, I think that's good. 'Cause I think
clearly
it'll get to the- I
identify
think
that?
The Class A trail should be a different symbology in the recreation trail. And there is parking at the recreational trailhead there.
Okay.
You could put a P there.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Cool. Next one. So what you're seeing now is a map of the various watersheds that you have underground in your town of Newmarket. Pretty straightforward.
It is very straightforward.
Can you, again, label the Lamprey River and the Piscassic River?
Yes, those, the label comments you gave, I will bring those to all maps.
Okay.
Yep. So I think we can move on to the next one.
Actually, can we, sorry.
Yep.
Because it shows up on this map really well, I was wondering, in terms of labeling roads,
Mhm.
since we're not labeling all the roads, there are some subdivisions that you've labeled, and I'm wondering if that's necessary, or if we should just label the major roads, because it gets a little busy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how we decide on,
I would respectfully disagree and think that, okay, true confession. So I saw this and said, oh, okay, I'll be darned. Now, where is my street? I think it's the same as you look at a group photo. Oh, where am I in the photo? I think for this to be a tool in the plan, people are going to say, oh, wait, I got to go here, I got to go here, I got to go here, then I follow this, and I go, oh, and that's that neighborhood. I think it's good to have those streets.
no, the streets will stay, the labels. The labels, because some subdivisions are labeled and some aren't.
What
So-
do you mean subdivision label?
So the roads, so some roads are labeled and some aren't.
Yeah.
So I'm asking which ones should be labeled and which shouldn't, because the more labels of the roads you put on, or would that be in a transportation?
Yeah, so question about that. The sizing of the label text, could that go smaller and you could still read it?
I would
Or
go
is this
small.
the smallest font that you're willing for us to go?
If you look at the water resources maps, which I think you did, the
Mhm.
font's quite a bit smaller. I
Okay.
think, and it's like a little bit bolder,
Mhm.
which I think would then fit better. Because I
Okay.
think this, it seems like a little big and it's
And we
hard to read.
we likely will recreate all of these maps as 24 by 36s as well. And so when you increase the map size to that size, every single road will be labeled. But for the smaller version maps that go into the plan, it can be very hard to get, especially all the tiny roads labeled. Yeah.
I know we talked about the rivers getting labeled. Are there any like brooks or streams we would want labeled as well?
Falls Brook should be labeled, I don't know if we talked about that yet, Falls
Okay.
Brook, which flows into the Piscasset.
Okay.
I think we have any other named streams.
anything
Oh,
that
Lumberland
comes
Creek.
up?
Lumberland Creek comes down by the Sweet Trail. So up here,
Mhm.
this is Lumberland Creek.
Okay.
So we should add those two, Lumberland Creek and Falls Brook.
Okay. Can do. My one question about this map is on the rest of the maps, you've seen that the majority of the data being presented ends at the Newmarket town line. For the watershed map, I extended the watershed boundaries past Newmarket so you can see the regional extent. Is that what you would prefer, I would assume?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's
I like
great.
this one.
Cool. Awesome. So groundwater and drinking water map. We touched on this very briefly. I imagine this one will get, this one's gonna get changed a lot now that water resources is a part of this chapter. I see this map being split into 2 or 3 different maps with a bunch of other additional data layers being added on. For example, for groundwater, we'll add not just stratified drift aquifers, but all aquifers will get added to the map. Wellhead protection areas will still be on the map, and that'll be plenty enough for groundwater. So we'll have an additional map that would be drinking water resources and other water infrastructure. And that would include public water supply wells, wastewater treatment plants, water towers, water treatment plants, sewage facilities, and things of the like. So I would say of the maps that you have in front of you, this is the one that's going to change the most based on the new chapter composition.
I'm guessing that new one that went in off Neil
Yeah,
Mill
there's-
will get added.
Yeah,
If you don't-
yeah, there's a well off of Mill Mill Road. Well, actually, it's off of Ash Swamp Road, but there's a town well
Yeah.
over there.
Okay.
And then
And you said it's a new well?
It's
Well-
new, yeah, they, in the last year?
Sean should have, I don't know where you're
And a
getting the
half?
data from.
Yeah, someone could, all I would need is like a map lot
Yeah.
number. That would be good
And
enough.
then, can you make a note that, I don't think Moody Point has a public well anymore, they're on town water. So we could take that one off. We'll make a note of that.
Also, as I continue to develop this map for the water resources portion of this chapter, are you interested in seeing water and sewer service areas within your community on the map?
Sure.
Yep. Okay.
So would that be like the actual lines, or?
It is. There's 2 ways we can do it. There is a line file from DES that shows the exact locations of all the pipes. There's also a polygon file that shows all of the residences that fall within a water or sewer district. So we could go either way. We could even do both on the same map. That's where we generally,
Yeah, yeah.
yep. We generally do polygons because if you just do lines, it's very unclear on if your new development can connect to that line or not. Whereas if it's a polygon, it becomes much more clearer of where that area is and what you can do with it.
Just one more on the symbology, the
Yep.
wastewater treatment plant and the water towers, again, the circles are kind of similar in color, even though the symbology is obviously very different. Just
Yeah.
something to think about, I want to make that a different color.
Yeah, we can fix that. Good to move on to the next one. This one, We'll definitely have changes once I add in the additional conservation lands that Ellen has provided me, which, as I mentioned earlier, are not on this map. So you will see parcels on this map that are conserved, that are not being shown as conserved. Yeah.
Honestly, for this map, I maybe take out the wetlands, because we're just trying to see, wetlands. We already have maps that show where there's conservation and wetlands.
Yep.
Like this, the big green one here, I can't tell where, because the wetlands cover it, I can't tell where the end of parts of the conservation is.
Yep.
Yeah, this one and the last one don't need wetlands.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't
Okay.
think this one, like the other ones, yeah, but this one, we're just trying to figure out, this is where the boundaries of the grid, then the wetlands are kind of obscuring that here.
Can do.
I
Thank
have
you.
a slight slight change in the conservation types. So again, the first two are green, and so if we could make those slightly different greens.
Yep.
They sort of are similar, but also the second one, so we have town-owned conservation land. It's pretty straightforward. The second one says town-owned conservation easements. Technically, it should be town-held conservation easements, so it's just a change of word there,
Okay.
and maybe a slightly different green.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think it should be, so then there's lots of different categories. I think there's really 5 categories. Town-owned land, town-held conservation easements. Then there's other private or public conservation land. And then there's other public or privately held conservation easements. And the fourth is subdivision open space. And I don't think we have the subdivision open space. It's on here, but I think it's mixed in with some other green. And so we might need to, you might need help sorting that out. I don't know, we could probably figure that out for you.
Yeah, so on the map, do you want to see it symbolized the way it is now with different colors with the different types of conservation?
Yeah.
Or would
Yep.
you like just conservation shown as green and then we can include a table in the report?
No, I think the different colors is really helpful.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And just
We
so-
might need a little assistance
Yeah.
from you to do that. The data here is coming directly from the Granite data layer.
Yeah, I know, and it's not.
So if something's showing up wrong here, it's wrong on the Granite database, so we
Yeah.
can help you fix that up.
Yeah.
And then fix this map.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if they can be 5 like really different colors, to me is the most helpful.
Okay,
But
Totally.
we can work on that for you.
yeah,
If everybody agrees with that, so there's
Yeah.
officially the town stuff, the private or other public stuff, and then there's the subdivision stuff.
But I agree that the terminology is.
We should fix that.
Kind of
Okay.
muddled.
We'll help you with that.
cool.
And I agree, no
Um,
wetlands. I think that's,
On this topic, before we switch to the next map, on conservation lands, at SRPC, it is our general policy when making maps that we map officially published data layers. So we use the conservation land layer that comes directly from Granite. We don't maintain our own conservation lands layer.
Right.
So we highly suggest whenever your community conserves a new piece of land, you update that in the Granite database. We have the instructions on how to do that. We have the application form, and we can also help with technical assistance to get that done. But just as a warning, because it's our policy to use the officially published data, if you don't update these new conservation lands in the Granite database, we're going to be having the same conversation next time we make a conservation land map for Newmarket. So we are very happy to help you update that database with the new properties you've given us. And that'll make conservation mapping in the future smoother, quicker, easier.
Well, I've worked with towns that they don't report any of them to Granite.
Some of our towns are like that, and it becomes very difficult to help them map their conservation lands. Yeah. So that's the one other note I wanted to make on this one. I think we're good to jump to the next one. This is conservation focus areas. These came from the Coastal Land Conservation Plan. Close enough. And we did update this data. You were right, we had the old data before. This is now the, is it 2021 data? I think it is now.
2020.
Yeah.
It's 2020, but
So we updated the data. These are the updated conservation focus areas from the Coastal Conservation Plan. Like you guys have mentioned already, wetlands will get taken right off of this. Aside from that, any other comments or questions?
My only thought is, because presumably we're gonna come up with conservation focus areas as an outcome of this process, I wonder if this could be called coastal plan conservation focus areas to distinguish, this is what they came up with, and we are then gonna come up with presumably some focus areas when we're done with our process. here.
Yeah,
So
I like that.
I would, because this is specifically the coastal plan
Yep.
data.
I like that. Also, as a side thought, with the new chapter composition, with natural resources and water resources being put into open space, usually when we do natural resources, we do co-occurrence mapping as well. Co-occurrence mapping is going to give you some really helpful information on identifying conservation focus areas in your town. So now that that chapter composition has been changed, there will be a co-occurrence map as part of this new overhaul chapter. And I think once we have that and the full base map set, then we'll be in a position to be identifying local conservation priorities. Any others on this map? Yeah.
The Smith Sisters property, I believe, is Audubon owned, and it shows it as being town owned.
Yeah, I think we're gonna fix all that, so, yeah, we're gonna fix all that. That's good. Good point.
So next one, we should be looking at highest ranked habitats. This comes from I think it was Fish and Game Wildlife Action Plan. This is the most updated Wildlife Action Plan from 2020. And so you were looking at what New Hampshire Fish and Game has identified as the highest ranked habitats in New Hampshire and highest ranked habitats within their biological region within your community of Newmarket.
Normally I would ask you to change the colors, but this is the colors they use, and everybody uses these colors, so
Yeah.
I think we have to leave them.
And I see that.
Sometimes I don't love the colors I use, but I keep them for consistency. I agree. Don't
this-
love these ones, but everyone knows what we're looking at when we
Yeah.
use these colors.
Yeah.
And I see there wasn't much point in putting supporting landscape on there. It may not have even been in.
There is a little bit of supporting landscape, but yeah.
Yeah,
before it
it's
gets-
not relevant.
The only place where I think it might make a difference, so we might, because there is a third category of
Yep.
supporting landscape, is I think it shows up in the new road area, supporting landscape for the salt marsh.
Okay, so generally I leave the supporting landscapes off because those usually don't go into the co-occurrence analysis afterwards.
Okay.
That's why I left it off. But if you want those supporting landscapes on here, I can absolutely
It
add
might
them
be
on.
worthwhile just for that. I think
Yeah.
it does bring out some of that area.
Yeah. Anything else on this one? All right, that was the last one. So I think, I'm gonna hijack you for 2 minutes. With the water resources chapter that's being merged into this, I think our general plan is just to update the water resources maps from your previous chapter. And then for the natural resources portion of this section, if anyone has specific data layers you know of or specific maps that you would like to see as part of that natural resources section, feel free to send me an email, or we can brainstorm at your next meeting as well.
I have
'Cause
two,
that'll be, mapping out the water resources and natural resources will be the next step for me as the GIS person on this chapter.
I had two thoughts. One is a soils map.
Hmm?
You typically do a soils map, and I'm wondering if, because sometimes just a general soils map isn't that particularly interesting, but to show where the poorly and very poorly drained soils are, which mostly will be wetlands, but, and then ag soils.
Yep.
So
for-
just showing like those on a map rather than all
For-
soils?
For soils, we generally do exactly what you first said with very poorly drained and poorly drained. And then we will do for farmland soils, prime farmland and statewide farmland. We usually skip the local farmland.
Yep.
But if that's
That makes
something you
sense.
want, we can add that.
No, that's fine. I think
Okay.
that would be good, but I think a soils map would be
Yep.
useful.
We generally don't do soils maps of like types of soils.
Yeah, no, that's
Because
fine.
it's way over the top.
It's
It's
just
too
too
much.
busy, yeah.
It's too much.
It's not well done.
Not very useful.
Yep. So just poorly drained soils and farmland soils.
Yeah, I think that would be useful.
That's what we usually do. Perfect.
The other one I thought about was a topographic map, and
Yep.
labeling the high points. Like, we have 5 hills that actually have names, and I thought that might be kind of interesting.
Do you have data on that?
Yep.
GIS data points?
Yeah, pretty much, I mean, we can get them for you.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
And I have the height, we have the heights and everything.
We have access to 20-foot contours, 10-foot contours, and 2-foot contours. So I usually throw them all on the map and see what looks best.
Yeah, yeah.
Some towns look great at the 2-foot contours, some towns look great at 20, so we'll see what Newmarket looks like once I build this on.
Yeah, we're pretty flat. I was thinking of a LiDAR map, but we're so flat that I don't think LiDAR would be useful.
Why not? So before I'm done, does anyone have any last questions for me about mapping? And if you do, if you think of any later, please feel free to send me an email.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks, Jackson.
happy to help.
Right. Thank you very much, Jackson. So, at the beginning of this, we had initially thought we'd break out into groups, but since we're a bit of a smaller group tonight, it probably makes sense to stay together, just to, keep conversation going. So, we are going to do a goal-setting activity, and you'll notice in the sheets that I handed out, you have this really nice framework that Ellen put together, which on the back has some brainstorm goals to help us kind of get started. And then I've also included, I reached out to Lisa Wise from Sea Grant, and she also is on the Elliott Conservation Commission, and they're updating their open space plan. So their consultant had put together some examples of different recently updated open space plans and kind of what those frameworks looked like, what their priorities were, and things like that, just to kind of help you get your thoughts going. So what I'd like to do is go through the 3 different categories in this chapter. So natural resources, open space and conservation, and then water resources, and discuss some strengths and challenges related to each. And then we can kind of pull those into some goal statements. And also feel free to use the maps to your advantage in this discussion and thinking about different areas of town and how they relate. So I think it might be good to start with open space and conservation, since that's where we've started this all. Yes, that'd be great. Jackson. No.
You said we're starting with open space?
Yes. Yes. All right. So, I'll just call out some of the goal statements that Ellen's written here to get us started and maybe get us brainstorming. So one of the open space and conservation related goals is to create safe routes for hiking and biking. Does the group feel like that is a relatable and solid goal for the town?
Are you reading this somewhere?
Where are you
Oh,
reading
yeah,
this
sorry.
from?
I'm just pulling from that sheet that says, at the top it says Newmarket Master Plan, Natural Resources and Open Space Chapter.
Right.
I'm on the back side, the last sort of chunk of bullet. It says create trail
Oh,
network.
right above Stewart Townlands.
So create
Yes.
trail
Oh,
network.
golly, I never
Yeah,
did.
sorry, I was just pulling the first one I saw that related to open space. And there's sort of a justification after the bolded goal statement for why that goal is important.
So exactly what is it you want us to do with this statement?
So my question to you is, firstly, do you feel like that goal is something that should be in this chapter? And then also, as we discuss, if you
Okay.
have other goal statements that you think should be in the chapter that are just your ideas, we can write them up here. Or if there are strengths that you see in open space and conservation lands, concerns for degraded conservation areas or degraded lands, you know, throw those thoughts out, and then we can pull those ideas into a goal statement. Yes.
I would just say like the hiking, biking, and trail network, that might, if we end up making a recreation chapter, that may fall more in line with that, since part of the use of it, the main use of the trails is for recreation, so.
So we're just throwing out ideas, right? We don't need to
Yeah,
have discussion
yeah,
about it, right?
just
So people can
throw
put any
out your
idea they want up there.
ideas.
So I would say a strength is that we have a lot of conservation partners and a lot of existing conservation land.
Jackson's got it. Are there any particular partners that you'd like called out by name?
Sure, Southeast Land Trust, the Nature Conservancy, New Hampshire Audubon, yeah, that's good. You might have others. And you could put the Great Bay Resource Protection Partnership, which is kind of the umbrella, but they're an entity. Jackson, one of the things you were talking about, data would be good. I know it's probably a simple calculation, but how much conserved land do we have in those 5 categories? I think
Oh,
would be
yeah.
helpful because
I
they're,
can easily pull that for you.
yeah, that would be good.
Totally.
I think another strength is how much our trails get used too, by everyone in the town.
Do you guys have data on that? Have you ever put up pet counters or anything?
No,
Okay.
could be a good thing.
I just know because I live at the end of Neil Mill and I know how much that trailhead gets used, and
Yeah.
I know by our other trailheads that what we see is.
Shameless plug on SRPC's end, just in the last year or two, we got trail head counters. So next summer, if you have any interest in collecting data on sort of your trails, reach out to us. Sooner rather than later, we only have like 1 or 2 of them, and some of our communities really love them.
That would be
So we can
Yeah, we should
definitely
do
help
that.
you do
Yeah.
some trail counts.
Absolutely.
Next year.
I'm not sure how to word this as a strength, but similar to how we cited Nature Conservancy and CELT and different groups, we do have groups that, as groups, not just like Joe Citizen passively recreating, but we have several major New Hampshire bicycle clubs that use these or would benefit from using them. We have several senior and area senior center groups. In Newmarket, one is really kind of nifty, it's called Hikes with Mike, but a couple of other towns nearby come in and en masse as a group do some of these trails. And we have a couple of bird watching groups and a couple of photography groups that do it, so not just as individuals.
And I have a semi-related question about trails. Do you guys have snowmobile trails in town? Or snowmobile club?
No, not in our
No.
town. Abutting towns do, but we don't.
Okay, the reason I ask is because sometimes that can be a strength and sometimes it can be a challenge.
Yeah, I'd say regionally it's a strength because it definitely is on the
Okay.
abutting lands.
But none in Newmarket.
We don't have,
Just nearby.
we just don't have the trails. I mean,
Okay.
we actually have some trail, but it's not a huge. Yeah, very popular. Yeah. It's just not really in Newmarket.
Yeah, I
think-
don't notice them on our stretch.
Yeah.
We've run out of snow.
Luckily.
Yeah, there's no snow, so we have no,
Yeah.
that's a challenge. No snow. No snow.
I think one of the challenges that I see is we have some great hiking trails,
Yep,
but they're not necessarily interconnected.
okay.
So there's segments in between them that, is there opportunity to connect them and expand on what we have? And could it be private land tied into it, conserved land as well?
How is the maintenance of the trails in town? Is that an issue? Do you have someone, a club that maintains your trails?
That's us.
Right,
You guys, nice job.
You do it all.
Back to the list that Chris was making of the people that, our library, our town library uses our conservation area sometimes for storybooks. So I think
Okay.
that's kind of cool. So I think generally the partnership in town with other departments, other departments and is really strong in Newmarket and really helpful. Yeah, it's all, I would say recreation, DPW, I mean, we partner with engineering, library, folks in the town hall here, Bart.
And I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but these are the theme categories that we've been brainstorming to carry through all the chapters of the plan. So if this is helpful to sort of brainstorm, thinking about how climate resilience, how does climate resilience relate to your open space? How does age friendliness relate to your open space? Do you have seating areas along your trails for people to take breaks at? Do you have, like you were just mentioning, you have the library and rec uses these areas for programming, so that to me is sort of community social cohesion related. And then diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, how do these areas help improve that in town or otherwise? So yeah, just something to kind of look at and keep in mind as you're brainstorming.
I think accessibility is a challenge. We've talked
Yeah.
about not only on the property itself, but getting people, the thing about not being connected, like how do people from downtown who might not have a car, or how we want to get people to these areas as well as once they're on the area, is it accessible or not? So I think that's a challenge. Accessibility.
There's so many cool things. Did you see about Manchester has outdoor days? And public buses will say, okay, we're gonna leave
Yeah.
at this time and you can go, and here's your hike, we'll come back and get you and bring you back, and,
Yeah, I just recently heard about that program. Very cool.
yeah.
Very cool, because it's, not something that bus routes are typically planned around. So,
I
So-
think regional, go on.
I was just thinking, one of the things that strikes me is we live right in town, and we always go up to swim on the lamprey at the, what's the thrift shop there?
You know, Shopmire Park and.
Shop
Yeah,
Mart,
yeah.
thank you. Which is great, but, I wonder how many people really feel there's access to the water to swim.
and when you say access, do you mean like physical access?
Yeah, to actually get in the water and feel like you can drive there and swim. Doe Farm we go to and swim there.
I think
So-
it's that sort of, not only, it's like, how do you communicate and let people know about
Right.
these things?
Maybe that's a.
People that do it don't want people to know.
Yes, the other thing.
Communicate, yeah.
So it sounds like the problem isn't that there's nowhere to swim, the problem is that people don't know where.
Yeah,
the
so
places are.
communication or
Okay.
outreach.
Okay.
I wanted to put back under,
Yep.
yeah.
That gets into DEI.
Back to strengths,
Yeah.
we were kind of a little
Literacy
bit lighthearted about it, but I think for the first time with Bart coming on, we have Bart as staff to the Conservation Commission. That's a huge strength in terms of, I think, what
Yeah.
our capacity is for planning and implementation
And regional coordination.
and regional coordination, yeah. A lot of good partners.
On the same vein of the accessibility, like getting there, but also like ADA accessible trails and such, how to make them, more accessible to different abilities.
Do you have?
How would,
I was just say, do you have any sort of?
the poll.
Do you have any sort of tracking of that, or like knowledge of which trails may or may not be some level of ADA accessible?
No, we've assessed one, but we haven't really assessed the other trails.
Okay. So that might be a need for the assessment.
And I think a huge challenge is balancing development and open space.
Right, yeah.
Challenge and opportunity, because I think we're, again, finally really working sort of integrated, trying to make it all work.
Yeah. Yeah, so it feels like the balance among interests is cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
Positive. All right. So I'll just point out some other goal statements that were on here that might relate. Connecting with willing landowners to protect priority lands and waters. Identifying high priority conservation opportunities, which I think is something we'll also probably get to in this process. Building on Newmarket's wealth of conservation lands, of course. Those were, and generally stewarding town lands, expanding education and outreach, which I think some of these items speak to.
I think for us, roads and traffic are a challenge because they have such a huge impact on getting, I mean, we're so small and we have so much traffic on roads, so like bicycling or walking or trying to find trail connectivity, the roads are, they're kind of a challenge. And we don't have public transportation, and even if, one of the reasons we started talking about this safe network for trails is that it's becoming kind of dangerous to walk and cycle on roads.
So it is one of a challenge. We don't have opportunity, but goals maybe,
Yeah.
to how do we make more complete streets?
Yeah.
Yeah, where the, just what I'm hearing, complete streets, where they, where are the opportunities to do that, and then where can we fill in gaps with other alternative networks like trails or whatnot. Then how do we plan for the future? Like as we do evolve as a town, get harmonious relationship between development and
Yeah.
also recreation and trails.
Yeah. I think the strength is the Lamprey River, the downtown riverfront in our downtown. We have an incredible downtown, I think, and
I would tend to agree.
yeah, and I think for me it's a strength and a challenge because one
Yeah.
of the things, I always say I live out in the western suburbs of Newmarket, so a lot of stuff that happens in town is really downtown centric. And those of us who live out sort of in the hinterlands, we like it out there, but I feel sometimes a disconnect, between downtown and the other parts of town, and I think trying to get, like, I really appreciate the downtown, and I want people who appreciate the downtown to appreciate the outer hinterlands, right? The open
Yeah.
spaces and what we're trying to do in terms of connect and protect and so forth. So it's kind of a strength and a challenge, I guess.
Yeah, highlighting those areas that
I
aren't
mean, they're all
so
really important to
town-centric.
have a really good community, so that, helping people recognize that is important.
And could enhancing the trails to get
people-
connectivity of
right.
trails, could that help that
Right.
appreciation from
Yeah.
both sides? Yeah. Because Grant Road is just what sticks in my head. To bike down that
It's a
is.
huge barrier.
Yeah.
So I wonder, we noted high trail usage as a strength, and so in the vein of connectivity and connecting to different open spaces and recreational areas, do you feel like the high trail usage is just generally trail walking, or is it to get to places?
It's trail walking.
Oh, it's
totally,
trail
we don't-
walking.
We have no
Trail walk.
we don't have any
Trail walk.
connectivity right now. Yeah, pretty much don't.
So that was raised a question in my mind. Do we have any mechanism for outreach to abutting landowners that we already have conserved land to expand the networks, the trail networks?
We've
And-
never done that. Well, I wouldn't say we haven't. The only place, I wouldn't say we haven't done that. So this Castle Greenway is probably a great example because Felt owns most of the land where there's trails, but we have the trailhead parking, we, got those 2 Class A trails designated, so there's a partnership there. And in the northern, where we have the Piscasset, Loisel, and Audubon's piece, and they have a trail, and we have a trail that connects.
Right.
And we're thinking about trying to connect up through Fallsbrook and up into Durham. So we have some opportunities, we just haven't, we're kind of at the point now where this
So
is what we
maybe-
want to
Maybe that's
explore.
part of the goals.
Yeah. This
is a
That's
launching
goal,
point,
like
yeah.
how
This
do
is
we
start-
develop
yeah.
that mechanism
Yeah.
The
to
outreach.
communicate and establish partnerships,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, in order to create connectivity.
So, noting the time, I'd like to capture any of your last thoughts on open space, strengths, opportunities, challenges, and then we can move on into generally natural resources, so thinking about habitats, invasive species, farming, aquaculture, things like that.
I think since we've been talking a lot about trails, I think a challenge is that, as I like to say, we're very wet. Newmarket is very wet.
Yeah.
We have a lot of wetland, as we can see on the maps, and which is a great resource from ecological and water quality and all that kind of stuff. But it's a challenge for all this other stuff we want to do.
Can you say that again? Wet trails?
No, our town is wet. We have a lot of wetlands.
Okay.
And so it's a challenge to doing some of these other things we want to do, like trails.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
just a lot of wetland, which we want to protect. But then also, if you want to do trail, there's a lot of infrastructure to think about,
Boardwalks.
boardwalks, or how do you maintain that? And, yeah.
I think we have an untouched strength, which is how many of the trails have really interesting geological features or outcroppings of really interesting rocks or things that are left over from different eras and some of the glacial deposits and whatnot.
We need a geology walk.
We need a geology walk, yeah. I mean, I've talked to people from different places that say, oh, Newmarket, yeah, that's where the activity is.
Don't we need a
Among the
license?
So,
Audubon Trail especially.
I know we're going to do 2 more, but is the best way, can people send you ideas?
Yeah,
Do
absolutely.
they have any time?
Yeah,
Because
my
it's
email
kinda
is
hard at
always open to
8:30 at night to be totally on top.
Yes, no, certainly, I
Yeah,
get
getting
that.
done.
Yeah.
And after this, I'll synthesize these notes and reshare them out with you, so you can kind of
Yeah.
add on to what you've already brainstormed. And then including sort of Ellen's goals as well, and other elements. All right, so.
What are we, natural resources?
Yes, natural resources. So everything natural resources that isn't conservation and open space. So,
Okay,
know.
so challenges, we have very little farmland.
very little farmland.
We have too much knotweed.
Is that an opportunity too,
In what way?
to expand?
Well, we literally have very little land that can be farmed,
Okay.
I would say.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
in terms
I mean,
of,
we just
in
have no,
terms of
we have the
soils.
capacity, yeah. we
Yeah.
just-
in the
We're
valley.
We're very wet.
Right.
And either that or we've developed.
Rice paddies?
We've developed everything that's,
There you go.
Quinoa?
we don't have really the capacity for farming in Newmarket. Which, we can't have everything, but we're small and there's other towns around us that have. So I think that's a regional coordination, is where can people go. We have some really great local farms, so that
Yeah.
would be a strength that we have regional opportunities for local farms.
Certainly strength. I am curious about, I know there's, I think, one oyster farm in Newmarket town boundaries.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that is an industry you want to see expand, or is there opportunity potentially to expand that?
You'd have to ask the oyster farmer.
Yeah, I think that's a.
I think that's more of an outpost for them than where they're.
Yeah, well, I think we could put down as a strength that we do have a new partnership with the Nature Conservancy, so we have an oyster garden at Shanda Park during the summer. And that's an educational, we just did it for the first time last year, and we raise fat, which is the little guys. And then they take them and they put them out into the bay.
That's so cool.
It's at the mouth of, it's at Shanda Park,
Did you say partnered with TNC?
the Nature Conservancy, yeah. And there is an Oyster Fest that we went to, three of
Yeah.
us went to, and at the Stone Church. So that's kind of an outreach opportunity.
Yeah.
to,
Is that
Yeah, with the
annual?
Historical Society.
And the Historical Society.
It's an annual thing, and
Yeah.
it's local farming.
Yeah, it's the local oyster farmers in Great Bay.
Actually, I meant to go to that this year, but I couldn't make it. So I'm sorry. I'm sure it's good about it.
Well, that's a big deal.
I don't know if where it goes, but sort of thinking about all that, and we're thinking about how we let people know about trails. I mean, we do have a weekly e-news, but, and there's a lot of great information in there, but sometimes if you're interested in this kind of stuff, it kind of gets lost, and so we don't really have a good mechanism for getting out. And so whether we should have our own, like sometimes, like recreation might have its own blast they
Right.
send out, and whether we should create something like that.
Yeah, so kind of developing a communication
Yeah, so
strategy.
I guess it goes back with our other stuff.
Do they know about the website?
So we are making a website for the master.
That's right, but I'm thinking this is
Yeah.
long-term, like how do we communicate?
Yeah, more.
So a PR plan, marketing or PR for the
Yeah.
Conservation Commission.
Do you all ever utilize Nature Groupie?
Yep.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep. That's a strength, we can put UNH, we do partnerships with UNH a lot. And then challenges, is you want invasive plants on this one?
Yeah.
Challenges.
Is there, so invasive plants, any other like insects
Yeah, we got those
issues
too.
as well?
Yeah.
I'm just
Or
not
those,
surprised
Yeah,
to
the
hear that,
hemlocks
but-
are gonna be a big deal.
Oh, the crayfish.
What was that?
Decimation of the
Crayfish, too.
hemlocks.
Crayfish.
We can eat those.
Crayfish Festival this year?
We have, Heron Point, we have hemlock, woolly adelgid.
Oh, every street in Newmarket has
Yeah.
hemlock lily
But
dell.
that just happens to be one. And ash is pretty much gone, so.
And knotweed is in so many places.
Is there any, is there a management plan for that at all right now? Or it's kind of informal?
yeah.
Yeah, the knotweed should be a partnership with DPW, because a lot of it's along the roadsides.
There are some towns with good management or
Yeah.
starting plans for knotweed.
Yeah. It's not easy, it's a difficult plant.
It's a crummy one.
I think a strength could be just our own knowledge of our natural resources. I feel like we all bring a lot to the table, and in terms of the good and the bad.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think, I always meet people who want to come in, I say, we're a very active commission, like we steward a lot of the land for the town, and we monitor the easements for the town, and, so we're almost like, in my opinion, I think we are staff to the town essentially, so.
Yeah.
Can I jump in with a comment really quick? Like I was saying earlier about how we're updating the land use data with the new aerial imagery, that's a several month project at least. But once we do that, we are going to be looking for key people in each of our 18 municipalities to just review the data that we've done for the town to make sure that the land use looks correct. So if there's anyone here who's willing to help take a look at that, we'll be reaching out again in several months. It's going to be a while.
Yeah, you might just reach out to the whole commission, because everybody comes from a different part of town, and probably
Yeah.
can add a little bit to that, so.
Yeah, but we'll be looking for those people with that local knowledge who can
Yeah.
tell us like, you did it right or fix this.
Yeah.
We can add it to an agenda.
I know we've done work days, but could a goal be like more regular work days, like whether, enhancing our land?
Yeah, just to put up under the strength on that, is that we have, I think we said UNH, we partner with UNH and UNH Groupie. We partner with the high school. We have other volunteers that come out, so we have the opportunity to recruit people if we.
We can mobilize.
If we mobilize, if we get our act together and say, hey, we need to have these work days. So we've been pretty successful at that.
Which would come along with a management plan if we were
Right.
working with DPW or ourselves to to create something, come out of it.
One of the things we are working on, we're putting more stuff up on the town website, under the Conservation Commission web pages, so information about each property. And again, that's another thing we need to let people know, like you can go and learn about a property, find a map. So that's part of that communication, but it's a strength that we have a website that we can put information up on.
Well, it's a strength that we've had ed programs at many of our meetings that then get recorded and put up on the website. So those are timely topics, be it night sky, light pollution, understanding when bird migrations, well, all kind of anything you can
Yeah,
think
we
of.
do a lot of monthly programs.
Just thinking, should it be like a forest management plan too, for our conservation lands?
But we have some plans for each property.
We have each
Yeah.
property so
Property.
individual.
But that's the strength and the challenge. So we have a lot of management plans, but those need to be updated.
Right.
And then we need to follow those. And so, again, we're volunteers and we come and go. And
Resources.
it's always a challenge, I think, for towns. We're not unique in that. I think that strength is, again, it's kind of more an open space, but I find these all kind of run together anyway. So we actually have pretty good funding sources. We get some money from the general fund, and we have the conservation fund, which is 50% of the land use change tax. So one of our goals is to increase that to 100%. And then we can apply for grants, and sometimes they're big grants, sometimes they're small grants, but we have, partners that we can apply to, and New Hampshire has some, pretty good array of grant funding sources, and we've been successful at that.
Strengthening partnerships.
Yeah.
Good, continuing strengthening partnerships.
You're doing a fine job, Walter.
We appreciate you.
What about accessibility and the kayak, the Northwest Passage kayak?
Yeah,
course?
that's right. We were talking about accessibility. We do have accessibility on the, I don't know if it goes into the previous one or what, it doesn't matter, but the Schottmeyer Park, it's accessible for kayakers. So that's a recreation department partnership.
And it expands into the salt too.
Yes, yeah.
So they have kayaks in both locations to be able to go access.
Yeah, actually, for our Sliding Rock, we just created a new kiosk panel, and there's a map, and we have, I think there's 3 freshwater boat launch sites and 3 saltwater boat launch sites in the market. So for canoe kayaks,
Several water access
and
sites.
one of those is accessible.
Do you find any issue in parking at the kayak? I know that's been an issue in other towns.
Parking the kayak or parking the car?
Sorry, parking the car to get in the
Well,
kayak.
both. We have a problem with parking the kayaks. as well.
Sorry.
Well, both locations have public parking now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the places have public parking, and people kind of spread out. And,
Yeah.
We're working on Sliding Rock a little bit more, so we'll see. But
And Bart, what's the Dame Road parking lot that now has been striped out? Is
Right
that,
in the corner there.
yeah, is that potentially gonna be a parking facility in the future? Or?
There's no plans right now, but one of the other efforts that we're going through is a rezoning of that area, so that could turn into something else, unnecessary parking. But for right now, we're using that as parking. So the town has a lease now with the Newmarket Development Corporation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So added a spot there. So it's what we do.
Thank you, Jackson, for documenting the process. Great.
Any other thoughts on natural resources?
Maybe I just want to point out we have a lot of strengths, but not many challenges, which is really good if this is true.
no, I'm sure there's a lot.
The challenge is it's so close to 9
It's 10 to
PM.
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, we could probably follow up on this conversation.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this is a great first start, I think, so, I think maybe we just move on to the next section. Unless, Alan, you got one more thought?
No, I just, I think we have a lot of strengths because it's a pretty cool town. We have a lot of stuff going on.
I think so too, so,
I agree.
great. So next one is water resources.
Yes. So drinking, surface, groundwater, all the water. Seawater. So on Ellen's goal sheet, we can start with some of these. Water resources. So first one, of course, as this project is funded, protecting drinking water. Very critical. You have a lot of drinking water sources in town, which is great. The next one is to restore waterways, and more specifically, to improve places where roads and streams cross. Which, little plug, SRPC is doing a road stream crossing signage project coming up, so maybe there'll be some locations in Newmarket on that list.
So what's that? What is that
Yeah,
about?
what does it entail?
Sorry, what was that?
What does it entail?
And so I'm working on the proposal right now, but it's through the Great Bay 2030 project, and it's to connect the Great Bay sort of drainage watershed and create a recognizable symbology, and to help people understand that, you know, waterways in New Durham relate to waterways in Newmarket. And you may not realize that driving around the region, but seeing those signs and saying, oh, my stream dumps into this stream, like, how can I steward that? And then also some kiosks at water access points to promote safe recreation near oyster farms.
are we looking for more water access? Is that
Not necessarily, this project specifically is just more of an educational purpose.
So can we add those goals you just said, protect drinking water and improve our stream crossings, aquatic passage? Those are goals.
Yes.
So I think, and then, so a challenge is that we have some culverts that are too small or perched. And the second part of that is we have turtles that are getting crushed on roads.
Are there specific areas in town where that's a big issue?
Yeah, Ash Swamp is Elm Street? Yeah, I mean, there's, yeah, it's wherever we have Great Grant Road,
There are
our pond
wetlands
there.
all over the
Yeah,
place.
wherever the wetland is, right there.
So everywhere.
But I think a strength of that is that we have a great partnership with our new town engineer and DPW and the town planner. So we're all working together, I think, and moving forward on that. Another, this would be a strength. So you remember there was a graduate student, Lauren White, who was doing the cameras at the crossings to look at where turtles were
Fishing
crossing?
Game, right?
She was working with Fish and Game, and she was at UNH, or she is at UNH. So apparently she's finished her work, and she's actually giving a presentation next week at a statewide conference called, let me look it up, I haven't been down. Basically designing of turtle crossings based on her research, with some of which was in Newmarket. Culvert design for turtle crossings. So apparently they've come up with designs where they think what these are is, because, you know, Ash Swamp is very low, and so you can't exactly raise the road and put a big open bottom box culvert. So I think they're thinking about smaller culverts that you would put in different places along the road, and then fence to get turtles to go through. And she's done the research right there. So anyway, I thought we should have her present her results to us at some point. But that's pretty cool. So that research is going on. And we also, yeah, I mean, we have opportunities to partner with UNH to assess some of our culverts and designs and see if we shouldn't improve those, and working with our town engineer.
Maybe, I'm not sure if this fits, but a challenge could be the education for landowners about fertilizers and their own salt in their own driveways, and how those go filtering off in ways we don't want.
Also, animals, pets, and also
Dog waste.
interaction with wildlife. So it's a
Feeding.
challenge.
Yeah, feeding animals
Yeah.
and,
That relates to water quality, so
yeah.
challenges water quality in town. in
Yeah.
certain
Aging
spots.
infrastructure.
We should probably put Moonlight Brook as a challenge. Not really,
For Moonlight Brook.
uh, Moonlight Brook. Which- The strength is we have a lot of wetlands. We have a lot of water.
Yeah.
We have frontage on Great Bay, which is amazing. We have the Lamprey, Wild and Scenic Lamprey River.
Yes, that wild and scenic destinations.
We have,
This is appropriate place for our water infrastructure
yeah,
is superb, I think, so.
yeah, I think our water wastewater department is outstanding.
Would those beavers count as a challenge that we're?
I think they're a strength, but that's me.
I know.
Yeah, I would say so too.
They're both, they're a
They're
challenge.
They're both,
Hydrologists.
yeah, exactly.
No,
If we
they-
could let them take over.
No,
by
they really
all
are
means.
both. There's a huge challenge on the rail trail that I'm
Yeah,
working on.
come up a few times in our meetings.
Yeah.
so.
We have, I think we have great water quantity, right? We have 4 groundwater wells and pretty, quantity, yeah. We have good water quantity in terms of drinking water.
How's the quality?
I think it's good too, I think, yeah.
I'd think it.
There's some saltwater intrusion for some wells along Great Bay. That's a challenge.
Yeah, that would certainly be a challenge.
I mean, for surface water, one of the challenges is that we're downstream of other towns that we experienced this past summer, with some degraded water quality.
You're downstream of what?
Other towns
Okay.
with, that they have infrastructure issues or sewage issues that end up in the system, it comes our way.
Just a heads up, we have 3 minutes before 9 o'clock.
Okay, thanks. Just one more strength, I think, again, I harp on the wetlands, but that they're really important for flood control and groundwater recharge, and I think that's a huge strength. So protecting like the Piscataqua River corridor, which we've done a pretty good job of, but there's still some more work to do if you look at some of the maps. So that's a strength and a really important goal, I think, the Piscataqua River watershed. All right, what do you think? Is that enough for,
I think that's
That
certainly
process
enough
for
to
tonight?
get me creating some documents for you guys.
Great.
And continuing to hone in some research. So, yeah, thank you so much for all of your contribution tonight. I think we've got a lot of good stuff, and we're moving swiftly forward. And so next month, I'll be back, hopefully with Lynn and Emma, to demonstrate some different types of, ranking, scoring, checklists, how to prioritize. And so we won't start doing that process yet, but just kind of designing the tool that you all want to use. And then probably a few other things on that agenda, which I'll pass along to Ellen. So,
Great, I'm sure we can fill, speak for myself, I'm pretty tired from a long day,
yes,
so.
me too.
The brain's a little slow, but adding more to it, if you get this back out to us,
Yeah.
we can sort of add to it.
Yeah, I certainly will synthesize these and kind of pull them together into some full statements and pass them out to you all to keep adding to.
great, thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Very good.
Appreciate you.
Just want to say great job, everyone. That's
Thanks.
really productive, so
Yep,
we'll be back. Thank you.
thanks.
You will be back.
Cool. What is it, a mappa?
What is-
Locus Minnesota has different,
Signing sheets.
looks like town facilities, so government services, more government.
Oh, yeah.
research, so yes, kind of
shameless plug on this, we have a ton of maps available on
Take
our
us back to
website for
Ellen.
you guys to download and for free.
Okay.
Hopefully you know that, if you don't.
Yeah,
But we have tons of mapping products you can print for free online. That's one of them.
that's nice.
Thank you, Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll keep this up in, keep on bringing it.
We should, is this for you guys, the sign-in sheet?
Autumn started passing that around somehow.
Yeah, that's for my documents, thanks.
All right, we're going to keep pushing along here. We've got a few more things. Town council report.
Yeah. We had a very quick meeting on the 3rd, just because it was New Year, but on the 20th, we got an announcement that the New Hampshire Community Power will launch in town in spring of 2024. They finally got the lower rates, so that's going to be going forward in the spring. Moody Point Stormwater Management Project got a loan with principal forgiveness for $100,000 and $100,000 that we approved. And Ashwap Road Bridge Rehab Final Design and Bidding, ink rehab on the deck, $56,744. That was also approved. But yeah, that was pretty. Yeah, it's pretty light.
Alrighty, thank you. Planning board, Jeff isn't here. Do you know if there's any more for the planning board? Yeah, Jeff isn't here, so any planning board update?
Is that yours?
Just confirming the master plan.
Oh, it came with the sign-in sheet.
That's all right. You'll find another one.
Yeah. We just had an update. Plan board gave direction on what the master plan should look like. So, we're going to come back for a revision there to the subcommittee based on recreation. But they basically help us set the foundation on what the chapters are going to look like. So we're on a good footing moving forward. And then the other update was there's some proposed changes to subdivision site plan regulations. The major, I would say, change would be establishment, codifying the technical review committee. Right now it's kind of just ad hoc, not really in the regs. What is being proposed right now is for all major subdivision and major site plan reviews, the applicant would have to go to the technical review committee first to have a review. The point being that all the aspects of the plan would be conforming to the standards and at the same time for not only the applicant but the plan board when they're reviewing applications. So that's what the major change there, and also requiring as-built for all major plans. Because what we're finding in town is we don't know if maybe we have to do a lot more research in finding underground utilities, and if we had as-built already, accurate as-built, then we wouldn't have to spend the time and money searching for those facilities. So that's another major change, and then some other applicability changes as well. I'm happy to share. Anyone who's interested, share with you all what those are, if you so do request. And that is the major items.
Okay, great.
Thank
Can you
you,
stay there
Bob.
for a sec? Sam's not here, so Riverfront Advisory Committee, Shanda Park, Bart, anything for that? Do you want to talk about those?
Yeah, what we did, we created a map for them, kind of identifying town-owned land along Riverfront. So the idea is kind of building up for our charrette and the Riverfront chapter, understanding ownership and where easements are located along the riverfront. So giving us the ability to imagine what it can become based on current land ownership and who to contact, who to make partnerships with, in order to fulfill a plan, which the community will endorse. So in that chapter. So that was the major talking point, and then talk about signs, updated them on the signs. So the signs for Shanda Park, Ellen and I have conceptually developed two signs. One would say no swimming. So a lot of concerns is people going into the water based on current water quality. So we have discussed there'll be two signs. One that identifies there's no swimming, shouldn't swim in this area. And two, educational sign will be for the kiosks about not feeding the wildlife and what it does, how it's contributing to the water quality. in that confluence. So Ellen, you want any additional?
No, I think probably it would be on the park as well as, I was down there today and somebody was feeding the ducks.
Yeah. Right.
Stop.
Not supposed to, someone's right here.
Yeah. So.
We need to
you know,
give the people more of a why.
Well, that's what this sign has, it's got all the
Yeah.
reasons why.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, Joe America needs to just
Yeah,
give the people
so,
more.
so that's part of that outreach that we talked
Yeah.
about.
It's
How
that
do we get the
education
word out?
outreach, so
Yeah.
another goal,
Mhm.
you know, could be in this chapter.
Yeah. So,
So,
Okay.
yeah, that's
Great.
it, thank you.
Thanks. And that was just an FYI, I sent out the report that we got from LRAC on the Moonlight Brook water quality study that they're
Yeah.
working on, so that was just an FYI. If we want to have them, well, just leave it there for now. Other committee reports, anybody want to report on anything?
I just wanted to pass these out from Energy
yeah.
Environment. They're going to be going out in the mail, as mentioned,
Thank you.
that we are launching in March. Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, everything's approved. Everyone will be swapped unless you ask not to be, unless you are net metered, because CPC&H cannot do net metering yet. Hopefully in the future it can be. I do have the rates if anyone is interested, but in the interest of time, I don't need to share them. But the basic plan does match Eversource's amount of renewable energy, and then you can go up from there. It does get more expensive per kilowatt hour for now. The hope is the more towns buy in, the more renewable energy sources that we can build communally and regionally, and that price of renewable energy can hopefully drop. That's the whole idea behind creating this and doing it as a state and having towns buy into this. So there is a public info session on January 31st, and that's for the town of Newmarket to learn more about this, and the CEO or the person in charge of CPC&H will be there. There was also a bill passed by the state of New Hampshire that helped us be able to gain the electric usage and account information. It's HB 314. That allowed us to get that information. If that didn't pass, we wouldn't have been able to get information from Eversource, so that was really important.
Can I ask about the
yes.
Jan 31, can that be a Zoom participation, or do you have to go in person?
I'm assuming that it will be on Zoom as well, but I can find out for sure. I'm not.
Okay. That
I'm
might
not
be
positive.
helpful to people wanting to
Yeah, because I know the
participate,
January
but not-
3rd one was Zoom, but that was regional for all the towns that are buying in. That's on that piece of paper I handed out. You can see all
Okay.
the towns that are already doing it, the towns that are starting in March with us, and towns that are planning.
Okay, you can just check, maybe zip us a note or something.
Yeah, I will definitely. I'll keep
And
you
then what was the
informed.
deal about if you're net metering, you can't?
Net metering is not included in CPC&H right now. We don't have a way to pay you back for energy you're creating.
So if you have
through-
solar panels now, you know.
Exactly. So hopefully that can be figured out, but currently net metered customers are not getting switched automatically because they wouldn't be getting their
Right.
their
Okay.
accrued
Okay, that's kind
energy.
of important to know.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. And that'll be a note on there. It might say it on here. I know it'll be advertised that everyone except net metered, if Eversource is your supplier, will be swapped to CPC&H.
Okay,
Yeah, it's exciting.
thank you. All right. Just real quick, I had put down to your report, just because we do an annual report that gets submitted to the town. I don't know if anybody had a chance to read it, but I need to submit it probably tomorrow, so. hopefully
I
it was
did
okay.
read it.
Look okay?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. There's some other things, but I don't think,
Didn't understand any of it, but I read the whole thing.
come on. All right,
Sound out the big words.
we're gonna move along, because we got a couple things we've got to get done. So the conservation easement monitoring that Tom was helping
Yeah, I can be
coordinate.
real quick.
Yeah.
All the properties that needed to be monitored in 2023 were done by the deadline. Got all the reports in, and got all the reports that had to go to other agencies like LCHIP or DES water supply folks. And so they've gotten all their copies. Silt did their 2 properties according to the contract, and they're done. We have their reports. So, let's see. And of course, there's some issues on some of the properties. And Ellen and I will be meeting next Tuesday to talk about that. Things like, I'm not talking just violations, but just confirmations, dotting the i's and t's. I know there's a couple of places where the surveys, the property boundaries are not clear, and that's something we need to address. But we're going to talk about, there's a bunch of stuff to follow up on. But basically it was all done, and I'm in the process of printing out everything that's supposed to go in the town hall and in the field files and that kind of stuff. So it's getting processed now. That's it.
Awesome.
Thank you a lot for that. I have
Thanks,
just
everybody.
one addition, yeah, thanks everybody for doing those. So we did get the invoice from Cell, remember, they're doing 2 for us now, and the Nostrum and the Hilton. And since this is the first year they did the Nostrum, so the total bill is $867.64, which is about what I expected, or slightly higher, but again, I think it's, because Nostrum is kind of complicated and it's the first time they've done it. And they're fairly detailed in their easement monitoring, so they're more detailed than we would be, which is fine. I think it's okay. So we need to approve this invoice, and we typically pay for these, this is a contract services, so we pay for it from the general fund. And it's a little funky because the light items will not quite match up, but we can do a deficit in one light item and it'll work itself out. And then next fiscal year, we finally will have the level up high enough to do it properly. But anyway, we can pay this from the general fund. So if you're willing, I'd like a motion to approve this invoice for $867.64 to the Southeast Land Trust from the general fund.
I'll make a motion to approve the invoice from CELT for
Whatever that
easement
amount is.
monitoring. Yes, for the amount that Ellen said.
All right, do I have a
Second,
second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you. All right. One thing I forgot to mention, thank you, Tom, appreciate that. Under the chair report, you may have seen that we have an email now. So an official email, which the important part of that is that will be our official repository of email correspondence, which is kind of important to have a record. And we also finally have space on the town's website on a OneDrive. It's sort of all connected. It's the same SharePoint or OneDrive. So that will be the official repository of all of our files as well, in addition to whatever hard copies we want to keep. So I'm just trying to figure out, it's slightly clunky. We still need to work out who has access and how it all works, but that's awesome. So now we'll have an official copy on the town website instead of our town computer server, instead of our private. I mean, we can all maintain our own, but so that's great. So thanks, Bart, for helping get that done. That's a big deal. Land stewardship, we're just going to move on from, well, I mean, one thing, we had Tom Ballestaro is a professor at civil engineer at UNH and does a lot of stream restoration, road crossing, culvert design, and so forth. And I thought of him for Sliding Rock, so Tom and I met him out there last Friday, I think it was. And he's going to provide a quote for assessing the boat ramp and the beach and some stormwater issues. So that's just the quote to then do the assessment. So once we get the quote, we can apply to LRAC and get the funding, assuming it's not more than $7,500 for the assessment, which I wouldn't think it would be. And then he can do that. And I thought of him, so he could also look at like Mill Road crossing, and so if we want to have him take a look at some other things, it's a possibility.
that'd be a nice
He has his
working
own stream,
relationship.
it's called Streamworks PLLC, if you want to look him up, but,
I've worked with him extensively,
Yeah.
and he's
Oh, you
great.
have? Oh, cool.
yeah, he did the Living Shoreline in Durham, and, yeah, it's very good. I've worked with him there on that.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I just met him for the first time. I liked him.
So that's great, so
he's
that's coming
good.
along. I think that's enough, that's all I got. Sound good?
Sounds
Ready to
good.
go home?
Sounds very good.
Motion to adjourn?
Move we
All in
adjourn.
favor?
Yeah, no hard feelings.
Well done.
Awesome. Time to go home to the puppy dog.